my friends. I wanted to talk to you today about faith. This is something that used to scare me. It seemed to be impossible to achieve, hard for me to understand, and something I needed to muster up if I wanted to be blessed. Ephesians 2:8 says that by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, but a gift from God. I always knew that this grace was something that was not of ourselves and a gift from God. But as I studied a little bit further, I realized that it's the grace and the faith here that is not of ourselves and a gift from God. You see, we don't have to muster up faith. It's something that He actually gives us. He gives us a measure of faith according to our need. He taught me to take this word faith and exchange it for the word trust. Now, this isn't a trust in people or things or even ourselves, but a complete trust in Him. So you see, He'll bring opportunities and situations into our lives where we have to trust Him. And as we work through those things with Him and we begin to rely on Him and overcome, this is how our faith actually grows. After years of running ahead of God, doing my own thing, wanting my own way, my life started to fall apart. I found myself deeper and deeper in despair until I hit a rock bottom. I finally came to the end of myself and realized I cannot do this. I knew that I was done, and at that moment had to make a sound decision that I was not going to make one more move without Him. And I realized that I was not in control of anything. In 2 Corinthians 1:8 and 9, Paul and his friends were experiencing the same thing. I want to read this to you. 2 Corinthians 1, verse 8, Paul says, "We think you ought to know, dear brothers and sisters, about the trouble we went through in the province of Asia." Listen to the strong wording that he uses here. "We were crushed and overwhelmed beyond our ability to endure. We thought we would never live through it. In fact, we expected to die." Listen to this. This is so good. "But as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God." Listen, they had come to a place where they realized that there was no backup plan. There was no plan B. That God was their only hope of survival here. And if they were going to make it, they needed to rely on Him. What a beautiful place to be with Him when we finally surrendered all and are able to say, "Your will, Father, not mine." It's exactly where He wants us to be. Hebrews 11:6 says that without faith it is impossible to please God. He really wants us to trust Him. He allows situations in our lives so that we will completely surrender and rely only on Him. 2 Timothy 2:13 says that even if we are faithless, He remains faithful, that He cannot deny Himself. So even if you don't trust Him, He is still trustworthy because He cannot deny the Christ that lives on the inside of you. He knows what's best for us. He knows things that we don't. He sees the hidden things and knows the motives of all hearts. I love these three words that describe Him. The first one is omnipotent, and it means He is all-powerful. The second one is omnipresent, and it means that He is in all places at all times. And the third one is omniscient, and it means that He is all-knowing. I want to read Psalm 139, verse 6 out of the New King James Version because I love the wording here. Listen to this. "And in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, as when yet not one of them were." All of our days were recorded by the divine architect before we were ever born. In John 14, verse 1 through 9, Christ is telling his disciples that he's going to go on ahead of them and prepare a place for them, and that he'll be back to get them. And they're discussing this amongst themselves. And I want to pick up in verse 8 where Philip responds to Jesus. John 14, verse 8, Philip says, "Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied." In other words, he wanted a little bit more proof. Jesus replied, "Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and yet you still don't know me?" I want to challenge you today to take a moment to reminisce with him about things that he's done for you, things that he's brought you through, ways that he has proven himself to you, things that you know you would not have survived without him. Listen, I don't say any of this lightly. I know that it's very hard to trust when you're facing something extremely hard and overwhelming. But even in that moment, I want to encourage you today to pour out your fears to him. Psalm 62, verse 8 says, "Oh, my people, trust in him at all times. Pour out your heart to him, for God is our refuge." There is nothing like this sacred communion with him, this intimate place that only the two of you share together. Be real with him. If you're afraid, or if you're angry, if you're confused, whatever it is, pour it out to him. Surrender these things to him and allow him to work through it with you. I had an opportunity to do this very thing last night, and I want to go through that experience with you. I've had a situation in my life that I've been working through with God for about a year and a half now. And early on, God showed me a sign that he would give me if I was to move forward and in this situation. And so I've been looking for that and haven't seen it. And last night, I had the opportunity to make a move in this situation. Now remember, I haven't seen the sign yet. When this opportunity came up, I'm going to be real honest with you. Every part of my being wanted to make a move in this situation. I felt this pressure take over my body and my mind. And I knew when this first happened that I needed to pour this out to God and do the same thing that I was telling you about just a few minutes ago. And so I started to pour this thing out to him. I started to tell him exactly what I was feeling and what I was thinking, what I wanted to do and what I knew I shouldn't do. And I was just working through that thing with him. This went on for probably about a half hour or so, and at the end of that half hour, something rose up in me, and I stood up and I said out loud, "I'm going to trust you on this." I said, "This thing is overwhelming to me, and it's beyond me, and I'm just going to have to trust you on this, and I'm not going to make one move until I see the sign that you and I agreed on that I would see if I was to make a move in this situation." I want to tell you something. Immediately, that pressure left, and I was flooded with peace. I knew that I was being tested. I had told him over and over again that I trusted him with this situation, and I knew I was being tested whether I really did trust him or not. I also knew that I was being tested because I was telling you to trust him today. And so if I'm going to tell you something, I always want to be doing it myself. I knew in that moment that my faith was growing. The definition of faith is this: a strong belief or trust in something or someone. Now let me give you the description of faith, and it's found in Hebrews 11:1. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. I want to encourage you today that even though there's certain things that we can't see, he can. Please don't gauge your trust on your experiences with others. Instead, gauge your trust on your experiences with Him. I pray that you walk away from our time together today knowing that He is trustworthy. Even if something doesn't work out the way that you thought it would, trust that He knows all things and that He is still faithful. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you. Have a wonderful day.